Being a member of this world, you may have noticed that older people seem to get cancer more often when compared to younger people. This is a product of increasing genomic instability throughout your life. Genomic instability is where DNA damage is accumulated and cells can become weak, senile, or in some cases cancerous. This topic is very expansive, so let's just talk about one specific theory as to why genomic instability increases throughout your life. The basis of this theory is in metabolism. Your entire body has a metabolism, but cells have a metabolism of their own as well. This is the cell's ability to break down sugar, glucose specifically, in order to generate energy. The energy from glucose is harnessed from electrons. Electrons are highly unstable, so they require a carrier or they will inflict massive damage to cells. Kind of like vibranium if you've seen Black Panther. The most important carrier for the purposes of this video is NAD+, or NADH, depending on if it's carrying an electron or not. Like all systems in your body, the amount of NAD+ present is regulated. How it is regulated is a bit unclear, but what is clear is NAD+ levels correspond to levels of metabolism. If cells are constantly breaking down sugars, there are higher levels of NAD+. If a cell is starving, there will be lower levels of NAD+. That being said, we now need to introduce another player into this equation. Meet PARP1. PARP1 is a DNA repair regulator. When DNA damage is detected, PARP1 is signaled. PARP1 will bind to damaged DNA and then bind to a few other repair proteins that will do the work. Basically, PARP1 is kind of the manager behind repairing DNA damage. Repairing DNA is an expensive and costly process. This means that cells must have an abundance of energy to properly repair DNA damage. And there are a few things that signal an abundance of energy like high NAD+ concentrations. PARP1 binds to a protein called DBC1, and when it is bound, PARP1 becomes inactivated. However, if there are high concentrations of NAD+, instead of binding to PARP1, DBC1 will bind to NAD+, freeing PARP1 to go and repair DNA damage. Overall, this means that if there are high concentrations of NAD+, PARP1 will be free to repair DNA as it pleases. Almost everyone is familiar with the idea that your metabolism slows when you get older. It is hard for a 40-year-old to eat like a 20-year-old while still maintaining the same level of relative fitness. This is because your metabolism is slower when you get older. This manifests itself in cells as well. Throughout your life, NAD+ levels decrease. In addition to having slower cellular metabolism, this also means that there is more PARP1 bound to more DBC1. As a result, less DNA damage is being repaired, and when less DNA damage is being repaired, there is greater genomic instability and a more likely chance of developing weak, senile, or cancerous cells. While this more or less concludes the study and sheds light onto some of the reasons why genomic instability increases with age, it is important to know a bit about the primary paper that reaches this conclusion. It is called A Conserved NAD+ Binding Pocket That Regulates Protein-Protein Interactions During Aging by Lee et al. While this paper is convincing, there are some instances of data omission and potential conflict of interest with the primary author. Regardless, it still seems likely that this is one of the possible reasons for increasing genetic instability with age, but be sure to use a critical eye. Let me know what you think.